All right, everybody. Welcome to our Agile Austin Leader SIG. SIG being Special Interest Group. Today, October 6th. We are part of the larger Agile Austin umbrella. I'll be giving a quick intro about what we do, and then we'll go into our guided discussion with Jason. You should be able to see my screen. And first, the introductions, folks. Max Ekesi. I have been a member of Agile Austin since, oh my goodness, it's like 2009 now. Time has passed from back in the days with Jason and Scott Keeling and all those folks. And I actually founded this special interest group back in 2010. And I tell everybody the greatest thing about being involved with something for like that long, for 12, 13 years, is that you see trends. And the trend very much at this leader special interest group is that we started off when a lot of things were not very mainstream yet. So we were like telling people about Scrum. We were telling people about story point, like estimation and various different frameworks and Kanban. Fast forward all the way to now, last few years, we've been talking about really the crux of leading a transformation, right? Like across the board, from psychological safety, customer focused initiatives, measuring value, et cetera, and that's just where we're at now. And I feel that in the next 5 years, who knows where we will be in this trend, right? And I am also the Agile Austin president. I've been for like a couple of years. Love it. I do have a daytime job. I feel that I get caught up with a lot of the volunteer and boards that I'm involved, but I am 9 to 5. I'm an IT senior manager at PayPal here in Austin. I've been in Austin for 20 plus years. We meet every first Friday of the month. For 12 years, we have done this. Okay, so great to have you folks here. And as I tell everybody, we have memberships and we have sponsorships, but I'll just tell people, if anybody's interested, go to our site. We have an awesome revamped site, agileaustin.org. Okay, and if you're interested in both, go there. You'll see the benefits. You'll see all the information there. And folks, I don't know if you started to do it, but I'll just go ahead and get started with this. Okay, share stuff in the chat. Okay, I think that it's important that people talk about where they're from, where what they're up to, and I will put this here. Go ahead and put, like LinkedIn link, or tell how you're feeling, jobs that might be like available in your space. Feel free to express yourself. Our sponsors, shout out to Agile Velocity and Ad Meliora Coaching. Those are our platinum and our silver sponsors. I'm just going to put their links here in the chat also very quick. Again, if anybody is interested in sponsorships and stuff, do contact us. We have a lot of sessions that go on every month. I think as an Agile Austin organization, we average between 5 to 7 meetups. And so just like we have a special interest group for people that want to lead Agile transformations, we have a special interest group for people that are into coaching. That is a very strong group that we have. We have a special interest group for people that are interested in scaling specifically. So a lot of scaled frameworks and everything. And we have a lean Kanban group, which you just join and they just bring up topics and everything, vote on it, and they just go at it. And we have a book club also. Okay, Ned has been facilitating the book club for years. I unfortunately do not read that much, so I've never been gone to the book club, but that's a development goal for me. Okay, I've still been trying to read Drive by Daniel Pink for like 5, 6 years. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. So, and I always tell people, if you want to hear about the stuff we do, sign up on Meetup subscribe on our channel, the YouTube channel, and I will put that information also there. It's just the easiest way to get all the alerts. And on the YouTube channel, we have every recording of the meetups we've had for years, conference presentations, our conference presentations. There's just a lot of content that we have there. So, go in there, search for stuff that you might like have an interest in, right? The board, we are phenomenal. We do our best. I'm just going to say, I think Ben also is here from the board. Ben is our Chief Technology Officer, Ben Rogers. Way to go. Lee Allison is our VP. Yay, Ben. What's up? Angela, Chief Product Person, and Scott Keeling, who was also one of the founding members of Agile Austin back in 2007. He is our treasurer. Great to have a lot of folks that have been here from the start, new folks and everything. Feel free to send us an email at board@agileaustin.org to tell us how great we are. Okay, and volunteer. We have volunteer opportunities that we post on our site. And I just think, again, I'll just put some of that info on the chat. And Ben says that he predates me. He was here in 2008. Wow, man. We're talking longevity, folks. Longevity. Okay. Keep Austin Agile Conference. It's coming up March 2024. It's going to be hybrid. We're going to be in person, and we have to do a virtual part to it because about 30% plus of our paying members are not in Austin. We've got members in Brazil, Canada, Denmark, all other parts of the US. So it's going to be a hybrid one, but very much all speakers there in person. And if you are interested in speaking, if you are interested in buying a ticket, if you are interested in sponsorship, please, here are the links that I'm going to put in the chat. Also, ping us. We already have sponsors, speakers. People have started to buy tickets and everything. We're right now in our super early bird special till the 31st of October. Then prices go up. Okay. And today we have Jason. Way to go, Jason. It's great to have like an old timer here back. It's kind of like blast from the past. Okay. And we're going to have a guided discussion and just talk about particular topics. And please, people, we want this to be as interactive as possible. Jump in, okay? Put stuff in chat. We'll keep an eye out there. No slide, like we'll just have a slide to talk about the topic we're talking about, and then we'll just talk about it. Almost like a podcast, kind of webcast or whatever you want to call it. And then on the 3rd, Ben, and I see you there, Ben in California. Way to go. Ben is going to be here November 3rd. I just posted out the meetup. I'm going to put it here also in the chat. Okay, Ben is going to be talking to us in November about design your agile transformation as you would a product. Okay, please feel free to sign up. I put the meetup in the chat right now. So let us get to it. But before I get to it, remind me to take a Brady Bunch picture afterwards. Okay, we're going to turn on our cameras. I'm going to warn you so you have time to stop having the bite that you're chewing on or whatever the case may be. Ned, your hair, fix your hair. I don't have any, so I'm good to go. And we'll take a Brady Bunch picture. Okay, we'll do it afterwards. Remind me. So now, no further ado, let's get to our talk with Jason. So guided discussion with Jason. We are going to specifically talk about scaling Agile and customer value delivery. How can you do those two things at the same time? Okay, not just a small team that is going at it, 5 or 6 people, and you're doing great and everything. How can you scale across your whole organization, company, and still focus and be delivering that customer value? Okay, but first of all, let's do a little poll. Jason, let's find out like what our crowd here, what kind of Agile experience you might have. So we kept it very generic. Tell us. It's always good to just get a pulse check about how long have you been doing this Agile thing, like transformations or any kind of work with it, volunteer work, etc., etc. Yes. Oh, I see. I see. People are answering. We'll give it like a few more seconds. And 3, 2, 1. I am sharing the results right now. Do you see the results now? Do you see them? That's interesting. We usually have people that are new to Agile. We usually have about 20%, 20 to 25%. However, Jason, it looks like we have a pretty experienced group here. So we can take some things for granted that we don't have to go on the fundamentals too much, and we'll just deep dive. We'll just go to the stuff right directly, okay? And if
Right.
people have questions, just do feel free to ask, okay? All right. Jason, who are you, Jason? Brief
Oh,
introduction.
who
Hey,
am I? Well, I'm in Austin, so I should say my pronouns, but I'll leave that joke for later. But hey, I am Jason Morillo. I'm the VP of Software Development here at uShip. Been around the block for a little bit. I've worked at companies such as Macmillan Learning, Whole Foods, National Western Life. Uh, I'm here because I lost a bet with Max, and so I'm presenting on behalf of Agile Austin. But at the end of the day, I think I think one thing that I'm really excited to be able to provide is with the experience is just kind of more of a want to say pragmatic Agile thinking in the last 10 years, and especially over the last, let's say, 4 years. So love to be able to chat with Max and shoot the shiz with him a little bit, and honestly answer any questions. And obviously I'm pretty candid with where I stand and um, what we've gone through, at least for this transformation with my company. But yeah, looking forward to this.
woohoo. And here are all the companies that you've been a part of, your cute, charming family and stuff. And in fact, as we transition from Jason to me, Jason inspired me to add a picture of my family also, because you know that is the most important thing, right? So I didn't have it on my intro slide and I added it. Max Ekesi, very briefly, I've been here in Austin since 2001, so that's pretty much my professional career. As I said before, IT senior manager at PayPal, Agile Austin president. I I present a lot, conferences, meetups, etc. I just get a blast from it, right? Mainly around agile focused things, but I'm starting to get into nonprofits and stuff that deals with social justice and everything, and facilitating sessions there. Family, my wife Sarah, daughters Sasha and Simona, and that was a picture before they told me to step away from the podium at the White House, because you know apparently they get particular about it if you stand around there, right? So uh, I just put down all the companies I've been at because I've only worked at large enterprises. So my experience, the way I speak, my everything I'm about is large enterprises. I don't know what I'd do at a smaller company where like you get stuff done within half a day and whatnot, right? I'd be lost and whatnot. But 2007 was my life-changing experience of being put on a Scrum team. And I never turned back from there. From that point on, I've just been leading transformations in various roles and everything, and still doing it now because there's no better way for me than an agile mindset to deliver value and enjoy the work I do. No better way, right? Maybe there will be a better way in the future. And at that point, hey, we'll transition to that. So, Jason, this one, we're going to spend a lot of time on this topic here. Okay. Uh, from your experiences, what comes to mind when you think about, wow, we had challenges with scaling and everything. Here were the pros, here were the cons. Here's what we were able to do by still focusing on customer value. And talk to us about that. I mean, I've got a few key things to talk about, but first, you're the guest, so we'll let you go first. Okay?
No, it's all good. I think through my experience, and I don't want to pontificate on this a little bit too much, but saying agility at its core is simple. It's really simple. When you talk about Scrum, I guarantee you about 99% of the people on this call could draw up a diagram of what Scrum is. What's the process around it, and said you can pass a test of saying how many people do you need on a Scrum team, what are the ceremonies and whatnot. So it's simple in that regard. I think what happens is scaling simplicity is difficult, where you're like, hey, this works for one team. Well, why can't it work for two? So someone will say, well, cross dependencies, that's why it's hard. Okay, how about now that y'all two talk? Why is it harder now with three teams? Well, now we have cross dependencies, and now we have a platform aspect behind it. Oh, well, then that means we need to have a scrum of scrums. We need to have more meetings. So that's what's next thing we need to scale. Okay, is that what the scaling problems people are trying to solve? Or is it more of, we have this many problems, we have this kind of team, we want to programmatically figure out, based on risk, revenue, whatever kind of digital acquisition play you're doing, how do we change our priorities, and how do we stack level and prioritize what we want to build? Well, great. How do we get that away from a team backlog in Jira? How do you bring that up higher to the level of where your executives understand what you're doing, to all the way to your investors? So I think scaling really is depending on there's a different flavor of scaling what people are trying to achieve. If you're trying to fix more of cross dependencies amongst teams, I'll tell you, like, SAFe will work in some respects. Less, DAD, you name an acronym, you could probably do that. But I always ask people first, like, what challenges are you facing inside of scaling Agile? And a lot of the times it's about, Jason, I have 8, 9, 10 teams. I want us to be consistent. I want to make sure I know what everything is going on. I want to be able to see that. I want to be able to know what each teams are trying to do, which leads into like delivery value and customer. And so I think the biggest challenge we run into is, if you can tell me what you plan to measure. So if I have 2 teams all working on the same thing at 2 Scrum teams, it becomes much simpler. Like, I actually know what I'm trying to deliver in value there. Some people can say, I can draw a value map of what I'm looking for, but I think at the core is, what are you trying to deliver? Who is your customer, and who's trying to build for that customer? And then you work your way backwards from that. And then we can talk about what scaling issue you're dealing with. On my behalf with my teams, I had, a couple of teams where we use OKRs. I think most of y'all, if you don't know, objective key results, highly recommend readings from Felipe Castro. It was great around OKRs. There's tons of books out there. Some of them are full of shit. Some of them are pretty good. But I think at the end of the day, we drive our teams based on OKRs, and each team respectively can control their own destiny to a certain point. But those OKRs are driven from larger objective OKRs, which are driven from either the board or what I will set from our executive leadership team. So what I'm getting at is, if all your teams are looking straight at revenue, and you're a revenue generating team, then you know what needles you're moving. That helps prioritize what you're doing. Your risk assessment is all built into your team. Your dependencies are now downward streams of like down to your to your platform or to your architecture. But if your teams are saying, hey, for example, my teams are built on domain-driven design. So our teams are respectively have their OKRs are built across DDD. So if you guys understand uShip as a whole, so uShip is a marketing platform. I mean, you make a bid, hey, I want to ship a truck from California to Texas. Okay, well, you're a customer. My goal as a team is to get you to come to my website. So I am part of the digital acquisition objective team. So my OKRs are built around the top of the funnel, bringing you in. That is my number one objective. That's all we're targeting from there. So I'm able to build that. So what we scale is, I have 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, but they're all built around the OKRs. The processes, I'll leave those to the agile coaches and scrum masters. But that to me that's the scale I'm looking at from that team. I have a team that's built on shipments, meaning that, okay, I listed my truck. I put it in there. Now I want it to match. I want it to be able to get shipped, and I want to be able to pay the customer, and the customer to pay me because I'm the delivery driver. Well, their OKRs are built on shipments. Like, I don't care. I imagine you already made it to my product. My OKRs are 100% driven on, how do I get the customer to click the submit button? That is their number one goal. So I have one team, two teams, three teams. OKRs are all the same. We're all driving towards it. So that prioritizes how we do our work. So sure, could there be dependencies?
So do all the teams have the same OKRs?
No, they don't. So that's exactly what I'm getting at too. Is like respectively, some of my teams, right? I'll have multiple teams on certain OKRs that they're all aligned, and have the different teams that are all set on certain OKRs that are driven by our, overall by what we set up as our company objectives. Like, so if our biggest thing is that this year, we thematically want to target B2B customers and digital acquisition. So, okay, what does that mean? How does that trickle down to the next OKR below that? And then we trickle that down to our teams of like, hey, how do I deliver value? When I know what it is we're trying to deliver, now you tell me how many teams you want to build. I see this inverse a lot. Like, I have 4 development teams. Let's figure out what problems you want to solve. Well, you saw what happened this past year. 60% of the companies in Austin laid off people, right? Because what are you doing? I think
true.
What's happening is folks are trying to scale up before understanding the freaking problem and getting ahead of their skis of thinking what they're trying to invest. So I am going to get on the high horse there, but we saw this happening, knew it was going to happen, and we saw the end result of people. That's what happened, is that you overstaffed, overhired, thinking you're scaling. I'm scaling. We're scaling our solution. We're getting the resources because we want to see that. And that's what we saw. And I think we weren't thinking of that
bodies. Like you're just adding bodies. That's it.
Yeah. So I think going back to those, I think that's why it works well in one another, is that I flip it around, is tell me what value you're trying to deliver and what's your objective. And then I'll tell you and then I'll answer the question of how do you want to scale.
And Jason, of course, folks, if anybody has questions, you want to raise your hand virtually or chat, feel free. Jason, you pointed out at a certain point where somebody might have 6 or 7 teams and whatever, and then you start to create the OKRs and all that, and you get into that. But I just like to take 1 or 2 steps back because these teams are already formed. And I once only, in my 22 years career, once I was ever able to rearrange teams in regards to, there was a team with just the developers. It was a development team. There was a team with the product people. It was a product management team. There was a team with the Scrum Masters. It was a Scrum Master team and everything. And each one had their managers. Each one had their own performance reviews, compensation structures, and all of that, right? They varied because there were different roles and all that. We were able to pull off, to do a reorg and actually almost create more product aligned teams, like specific to a product, as in then have developers, Scrum Master, product person, the product owner, we called it then for that particular thing, and whomever else had to do work. There was even one team had a technical writer, right? They used to be in the technical writing team, but they all came together and then they reported up to the same manager. They all had the same performance goals, compensation goals, OKRs, everything was the same. And it was incredible to see how fast they work, how focused they work, and how they were all tied in together because they all got compensated. They all win or lose together, regardless of the role. Have you ever, or has anybody else in this call experienced something like that, where you had to scale, but you took a step back and say, we're going to create like product focused teams or whatever you want to call them, and different roles, same objective?
But until someone else pops in, but I want to be clear here too, is like, when you're talking about building these product line teams, right? I hope it's a product and it's in mind of like, I know what problem they want to solve, right? That you have to, unless I'm always going back to that. What problem are they trying to solve? And then you kind of build that structure from there. For example, like our teams, I have one platform. Macmillan's an example of where teams were set up as different products, right? So you can create those product line teams are kind of inherently created based on, you can go by discipline, you can go by program, you can go by platform, but there's different ways that you can cut it. Not everything is that clean cut, right? Let me be
It
clear. And
doesn't
then
always work.
it doesn't
It's
always
true.
line up
It
that way.
doesn't
So
always line up.
I mean, it's how do I put it that way? It's like that's one way of obviously being able to approach that. Looks like this guy, Jerry.
Jerry might have something to share on this. Yes,
Yeah,
please,
so
Jerry.
got a comment to that, Max. So we're right now in the middle of doing exactly what you're talking about. We're on the beginning stages of that.
Mhm.
But one of the problems that I am struggling with is that these initiatives, so these products or initiatives that we're aligning these teams to, they can be very short or they can just vary in length. So some may
Yes.
take a year, some may take 6 months, some may take a couple of months. So I guess mine is just another question is like, how do you deal with that kind of thing? Because I agree with you. That's how I want to arrange them. But yeah.
Yes. No, and that's a very good point, Jerry, because we had a scenario where we had a product. It was a very established product, and that product just kept on having enhancements and new features that we had to add to that product. So it was the perfect scenario of a product that is going to be around for years. And we just needed people to focus on it to just, increase like the functionality so we could get more customers, we could get more value to our customers and everything. And it was very focused, right? But Jerry, I wish you the best on that but that is trying something new. Whether you succeed or fail, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something. And whatever you learn, that hopefully is going to make you stronger to take on the next challenge.
Can I qualify that quick question? Like, okay, so if you
Yes.
have an idea of what you're trying to build, then call it for what it is. You have projects or products, right? So if you have a project, that means you've determined a scope of beginning and end, because you kind of mentioned something could take 3 months, something could take a year. That is it based on someone already estimating what that project will take, or that's how long the engagement is until you got to deliver within 6 months, 6 to 3 to 8 months to a year? Because I'm trying to understand that too. It's like I'll attack a problem differently. Like, I love constraint-based decision making all day, right? It's like when I wake up, what are my constraints of the day, right? So I want to make sure I understand that when you're looking at a project and saying, hey, I want to set up and build out our teams this way, I go back to the problem where if it's temporal in nature, why would I try to set up a team around it to break apart later on, get rid of, or are you just going to reallocate again? So what kind of investment are you going to make in that team?
Yeah, so I'm thinking more so of like just reallocating. So we've got some data programmers, we've got some UI, we've got whatever. And so it's like, okay, assemble a team with those various different components, let them run on a particular project that has a beginning and an end. Then we might need them to do something else, but let's say the data team are familiar with one aspect of a business and not a different aspect of the business. So it doesn't make sense to keep that data person on that same team. I need the other data person who's more in touch with or familiar with this other area of this new project. Does that make sense?
So it makes sense, but that raises a red flag for me, Jerry, if I may. And this is why I love this, because we just talk about it, we discuss about it, experiences and everything. What worked well, extremely well in the scenario that I shared is that we were able to create product teams that stayed together for a very long time. And when I mean a long time, like years. And what happens when teams stay together for years? Members start to really take their communication patterns to the next level. They start to finish each other's sentences. They start to we would do sprint planning. It would never go over 30 minutes. I've been in sprint plannings that go half a day. 2 hours. I'm like, what is going on? They were just well-oiled machine because they had worked together for a very long time, and they were even starting to become, this is like something that just blew my mind away, a very cross-functional team. Okay, if the product owner was out, the dev lead and the Scrum Master had experienced enough of gone to meetings with the product owner, done a lot of stuff that they joined in, wore the product owner hat until the product owner came back from the maternity leave or stuff like that. Like this happens when you have people that work together, teams that are highly performing, mature teams. When you start to plug and play, take people on and off teams, there are so many side consequences to that that can be painful. I hope you understand my point there, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've gone through iterations of product line teams. We have things of like vertical slices of based on discipline versus platform, companies, company centric. One of the things that we landed on, and so far it's been about, again, please do not take this as prescription of like, Jason said you do this. Like, look,
it's been recorded, Jason.
I know.
It's been recorded.
I'm not
send him the YouTube clip.
I know. I am not a Martin Fowler fan by stretch of the imagination, but there are things he's right about. And for the last 3.5 years, we've been really investing in, this not the simplicity and design around DDD of our overall platform of how we approach our company and our product. I don't have uShip.com, for example, is one product. It's not. We have multiple offerings within there. We have multiple disciplines that are within there that you can kind of cut, slice, and dice it. But we're trying to take the aspect of, we do not want, as a customer, I order DoorDash for breakfast, for example. I don't give a crap how they set up their teams and what agility and what they're doing. All I care about is they deliver my coffee and my donut this morning. So from a customer perspective, they don't care how we've designed this. From a business perspective, we want to be efficient. So how do I set up the teams of where we can deliver value faster for our customers? So I'm not also saying engineering should dictate how you build your process around your key business objectives. But if you can get that alignment of when your business understands your domains of how you build your bounded context of how your teams build product, that is powerful of how your teams can now approach and direct problems that you do not have to live and die inside of these smaller projects. Because in your domain, example being, hey, I have a domain around identity management and compliance. Okay, I could have an Okta project for 6 months. I could have an authentication problem that we're going to redo exactly how we're going to build our authentication tokens moving forward for B2B customers. Great, that's another project. Okay, I'm going to be building whatever moving forward. But with all those said, I have that skill set. Their number one goal is, how do I get people to go from login to register as customers? That is their only thing that they're focused on. That is their only objective. And so your projects could be multiple things you can do, multiple things you can build, as long as it moves that needle. What is that skill set you need? Now you can plug and play. That way you're less temporal in nature of like how you construct smaller teams. And yeah, folks can float around. That's fine. But when they go to another context, it's not based on their skill set. It's based on that bounded context of like, hey, I know what domain I'm going into. I need to understand the business as much as I am, hey, great, I'm more back end, more node developer, right? Great. You know what? You can go to any of my teams. All of our teams do node, but do you understand the context around authentication and login? Great. Then that's your domain you're going to go into. So I just want to be clear that if you can align your business objectives down to exactly how you're building out your engineering, because I want to be clear, like this is scaling Agile for Agile delivery, right? So
yes.
That product line teams, like we were talking about, like you could do product line teams. That tends to help itself really well and gets you out of that whipshot nature of trying to create project teams, acting like product teams, and then okay, I'm done. They break apart. I move somewhere else. Teams will break apart. That's okay as long as it's deliberate. It's deliberate in the sense that, hey, the point of us breaking apart that team was for the purpose of scale, not reallocation. So I like to call the gardening, germinating, beautiful development team. Like I'll have a lead on one team and a lead engineer from here. They will go on to the next team and then bootstrap a whole new team from that. And then this great developer from this team goes to this team, blossoms and creates a new team. Sure, you can, if we're talking that respect, that works. But I'm not going to say, well, candidly, I would have never hired them if that's all they can do is like, hey, I'm only a WordPress node person. So what team am I going to go into next? shame on me, we hired the wrong skill set.
Yes. Yes. No, Jason, spot on, spot on. And there was one particular part in scaling that I've always had a challenge on, and it is when things scale, the people that are doing the work and the people that are using the work, so the end user, the customer, whatever you want to call the person who uses the services and products, and so that can provide feedback on it, those two groups of people just get further and further apart sometimes. I mean, call it whatever that gets in between them. PMO organizations, portfolio planning, product organization, a business analyst and stuff like that. I remember, and there was a speaker that came about 2 months ago or something, and specifically shared the experience of developers that just shadowed an end user, because they had like a sales department of some sort, and they were consulting, and they were like, we created this sales platform and everything. Let's see how these people use our sales platform. And it was like shocking. They were like, why does a salesperson open up 4 or 5 different browsers? Because they had to re-authenticate into different browsers and everything, and use a different part of the app and everything, and then they were like, why didn't this come through with our product owner, or whatever the case may be? And I had the same experience. Where we were creating a very customizable sales tool back at Dell, so that sales agent could sell very complex solutions very quickly, servers and storage and network devices, and just configure them and do it. And at some point, we like, let's shadow a salesperson on a sales call. And we noticed, first of all, the first thing that stood out is this salesperson is only using 20% of the functionality that we have in the tool. Like, we worked a lot to put all these really cool features that the product owner and manager asked for, and they're not even being used. Like, we followed them for hours, and we're like, they're always on these 20% of the functionality. And even when they're doing that, they're using bizarre shortcuts and switching browsers and everything that we just had no clue about. So that, I've noticed, is a really big impediment when scaling. How can you keep that quick loop feedback between who uses the software and who creates it? Because somehow it's like the telephone game, right? Like, all of a sudden you build things which are being requested, like stories just show up in Jira, epics and stories just show up in Jira, and you build the most beautiful thing, exactly what has been requested. And when you see it get used, you're like, hold on a second. Like, there's a breakdown in communication.
What's great is that when I talked about like the OKRs that we build out at our, not from our executive team, but down to our senior leadership, like, I probably should have prefaced this. We have objectives and OKRs that some are very engineering centric. Like, my IT services group has very, their OKRs are pretty much centralized to how their day to day. But we have shared OKRs across departments, right? So like our marketing, we'll share, this isn't, proprietary information, but we'll share an OKR about a certain commodity of shipping, of making sure that we have a great customer satisfaction of our carriers, right? That means that, hey, Max, you have a Ford F-350, you love traveling around town, and you like to ship couches and cows to people, and we want to make you happy, right? So
yeah,
that's our OKR, right? So that's an OKR from a developer perspective, from a development team. That's the OKR from the marketing department. That's an OKR down to our trust and safety. So now that you know that we all share the same OKRs in that sense, what I do is like, hey, how can I make sure that we build a great feedback mechanism survey that when folks actually submit something, we can see the traffic. We're seeing carriers are dropping off. We see a form that says, screw this, I'm not going to fill that out. I don't know if I'm satisfying them or not. On the flip side, we have our marketing team calling carriers. Hey, Max, how is your experience going on? We're all aligned towards that OKR. And then we have our marketing department that puts out Facebook ads, and people come around and says, oh, you have a Ford F-250. Do you want to start traveling? So we see that traffic. So you see everything ties back to that OKR. So when you're seeing those feedback loops, our feedback loops are around all of us. We have to see that needle move together. So who gives a shit if I built a great carrier platform that I can get you certified to get on the to get there?
If it doesn't achieve the OKR,
but if you don't see it, then who cares, right? Who cares if I built the best? We have it's purely unit tested. We have automated testing on everything. This thing can be deployed and undeployed, right? Man, it scales really well. We can have, who cares if no one's seeing?
We have no bugs. Yeah, but it doesn't add value to anybody out there. What
at the same time, I'm allowed to get beat over the head with it of where, hey, we're having a lot of carriers coming in, they're complaining about performance around the platform, and then that's driving down our CSAT scores. That's on me. You're allowed to take me in the back room and beat me up, right? But until then, if I don't know what that is, then how do I drive that? So our feedback loops have to be tight when we're all sharing the same OKRs. And that's my problem. Like, that's why we don't have a PMO separate group in that sense, or we have a separate architecture group. It's all intertwined because let's be clear, right? There's money to be made by prolonging the problem sometimes. And I think what I'm trying to get at is that you got to
hint into external consulting companies that cover. Why don't hate on them? Like, they've got to earn their money too. And why are you hating?
So my last Agile Austin talk I gave was that when should you fire your Scrum Master? People ask me that, like, oh my God, that's a provocative title. It wasn't a provocative title for people to show up. But the idea is that I hate this where someone goes, hey, well, my backlog is great. My ceremonies are on point. My retros get completely done, but the team doesn't deliver. So I'm doing my job. Bullshit, right? That at the end of the day, it's like you are just in charge. You are just as accountable toward the delivery of that team. So that's what I'm getting at. It's like, it's not, I want to make sure that everyone is involved. So we're all, like you said, we're all in this together. So part of scaling is you cannot just be engineering centric, right? That's the thing that I've learned in many companies so far is like, I can, working at like bigger companies like a Whole Foods, right? Here's my bubble. Where can I create a little bit of force function? Yes. When I was at Macmillan, another company was great. Like, where can you expand and say, hey, I can make a change in this vertical or this specific area. And so what I also learned is that who cares what you're building here if the left hand doesn't know what the heck you're doing? Oh, you're creating this whole new design on this front and building this new platform, but on this side, you're trying to keep the lights on. Well, great. We have two conflicting messages from here, and it happens. Shit, I mean, that happens to me still today, even as much as
every day. Almost every day I experience it.
But at least I know where my problems are versus I don't know where it starts. So, sorry to go on a rant.
No,
I want to vent. Sure to tie that back in. I know that I want to tie that back in because I don't want a picture of like, well, what can I do on my team? The hard part. Scaling is beyond this. That's what they're talking. Is that how do you get to that next tier of conversation to talk with? Whether it's I don't care how you set up your program management down to your next tier of leaders, your mid-level management, everything on, and how do you move that up? That's going to be your key to scaling.
Or exactly. And I like how you came out with the provocative talk of when can I fire my Scrum Master or whatever, because I think the Scrum Master role, yes, it's a critical role, but the most high-performing Agile team I ever experienced did not have a Scrum Master. So, it's like you've really got to think about what that team needs at that particular point of their journey to deliver value. Right. Yeah. And so some teams might be just very new. A lot of people just need coaching. A lot of people don't know what to do. A really solid Scrum Master can get them going up and fast. Okay.
For the record, I just want to see, for the record, I love my Scrum.
Yes. No.
And I know how to, and I know how to capitalize their work just in case anyone wants a tip. Just reach out to me. But that's just...
And I used to be called a Scrum Master for a very long time. So the next 10 minutes, if we may, okay? Again, if someone has a question, put it in chat, raise your hand. And I think, Jason, your co-worker is there with David, your ex-colleague. is there with David, right? I'm at McMillan days.
Hey, Max, you cannot say I'm just Jason's, yours as well. So it is what it is.
Hold on. Like now the flashbacks are coming back.
Exactly. And I did want to make a comment, Jason. Why won't you tell Amazon that teams shouldn't be engineering centric? Let's have a separate subject just about that.
That's a whole meetup on that. Okay.
Yeah.
In defense of Amazon, because I got a taste of Amazon when I worked at Whole Foods and they had already been bought. Amazon is so fanatically customer centric. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, it's like they will switch roles of people. They will regroup teams and everything because of the customer delivery that they have to focus on. And I just thought that for such a large company, it was incredible. It was incredible. It just customers at the center of everything.
Oh, I think.
Hold on. I need to finish. I need to finish with this last slide. Jason's going to say a last comment, then we'll finish on outputs and versus outcomes. Yes,
Right.
Jason.
All right. See you guys. Join you next time. Thank you.
Join us. Jason, sorry. You were going to say something?
Oh, so yeah, invite me over to Amazon to run me out of the room. But they inspired a lot. But they inspired like a lot of their contract. You know, a lot of their engineering practices. What we've adopted, right? We've had a couple of people at AWS. Some things work. Some things work for scale. We talked about some things work for scale. Some things are like, dude, I'm not dealing with 15 teams. I'm dealing with 2. We can get this shit done in 8 hours, and it was fun. So exactly. I think what's really great is their idea of being customer centric. It is at the end of this core. It is domain driven design, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that could be a whole talk on itself and everything. Okay, so I have a pet peeve. Outputs versus outcomes. And I'm just going to ask people just so that, you know, we all understand. I'm sure we all understand, but people can just put down what is an output, what is an outcome. Output is, you know, velocity. Output is burn down chart, right? Output is all these things. And I cannot believe how much every company I've been at has focused so much on output. Jason, you talking of the OKRs, thank you. Thank you. Because the OKRs are an example of an outcome. Okay. And when we presently at PayPal, which just love working at PayPal, like just a lot of the tools that they have, a lot of the focus on empowering us to deliver value is just incredible. It's one of the best companies I've been at, and they have extensive reporting on all the work that we do. So I just love the let's visualize our work because we're all remote, we're all somewhere else. We have to visualize our work really quick. But when I ask the tools team, show me how we're measuring our outcomes. Show me some outcome driven measurements and everything. I get crickets. We do mention, OKRs, but Jason, it just doesn't get there still. I think the way we use, the OKRs and stuff like that is just not there because in a lot of ways, you have to go and measure after you've delivered, are you achieving the OKRs you set? Are you achieving the outcomes that you set? Can you talk a bit to how do you achieve that? How do you go after you've delivered, right? Because for us, we just get done with stories and we go on to the next stories. We close, I'm like an epic and we go to the next one. Nobody goes in and verifies that we achieved the OKRs or the outcomes.
It's dashboards and scorecards. That's really the case, right? We have kids. Some of us have kids in school, right? How do you ask them a couple of things like it's good luck getting your child to tell you how school went when you come home. How was school today? Fine.
Like
it's one single word. But what I want out of them, folks have kids, but now it's more of like, well, the next assessment I have is I could look at grades and then we could work our way backwards from that. Oh, looks like you're not trending well. What's going on? Is this difficult? What's going on from here? Again, those are when you want to call output versus outcome. At the end of the day, we have scorecards of what allows us to be able to kind of really understand where did we want to be? Where are we today?
Awesome.
things that are more engineering, we're saying IT services perspective, we have everything from our, we have like, think of it as a dashboard. We have a dashboard with like 4 quadrants, and then in one corner we have kind of like, what is our CSAT scores, right? What is our
MPS scores or stuff like that,
our satisfaction score resorts. How fast are we delivering your service desk tickets? How fast are, what is our MTTR, right? How well are we doing here around your department? So we have to be able to provide that. Now, let me be clear. When you build sometimes some of your teams, it is not as, you're going to have to do a little bit of PR also on outcome. Like, you want to show the great story. Like, we see commercials of like, hey, I was a guy, and then, I made this much money shipping my shipping this truck. And now I make, $60,000 a year, traveling the world, traveling the US, delivering stuff. That's a great story. That's an outcome we want to have people create their own business, be able to do that. That is a great story. In the long run, that is 0.0001% of the revenue that we're trying to generate. And I want we have to look at other aspects also. So there's the outcome from a marketing perspective. That is great. That's tied to sell our OKR. But my outcome on engineering department is I look at MTTR. I look at performance of our platform. I want to make sure to know that we are stable, we're performant. Our uptime is, I'd love to get to 5 nines. Not going to happen. I want to get up there. Those are things that I'm accountable for, but I build up those. But the outcome at the end of the day is the same thing, right? We all have that same outcome, the same scoreboard. So we have a dashboard that is very laid out of exactly how we build everything. And, the funny part is the inspiration for us, how we built our engineering scorecard to align with our product scorecard is I got an oil change. I look at the sheet, and then you look at your oil change chart and you're like, I care about the horsepower on my car or how fast it is, but you want to see where's my oil at? Where's all this at? What needs changing? You look at, that's not sexy, but that is the lifeblood. That's the engine that helps everything else run. So how do you create that? That's an output, right? Of what's done after you do that. But the overall outcome is like, I want to feel safe driving my car or let my son drive it to know that he's going to make it to his destination, or I'm not going to break down. So I want to be clear that output and outcome are to the eyes of the beholder of who you're presenting it to sometimes.
Yes.
For us, for our engineering department, when we do engineering town halls, we will pump our fists of saying, that's awesome. We're less than 1 hour MTTR for any problem that we had. Less than an hour. That's industry standard to be able to do for any issues or incidents that we have. That's awesome, right? That is where you want to be. To marketing, not sexy. It's not what you want to be. But to the outcome for us is that my engineers do not have to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning. We are delivering code. We are not having context and no injects. Our NPS around scores for our engineers of Slack. We measure their sleep. How well are you sleeping? Right.
Oh my God. Awesome.
Coming up, we do on-call. Like, how often are folks on call? We count how many hours folks are on call or have to be woken up. To us, you can see that as output. For me, that's outcome. I'm looking at.
It's true. That could vary but your outcome is the wellness of, your employees. Like, you measure the sleep hours, that could be like an output per se, but it could be like mental health and all that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, my manager is worried about execution. My goal, in at least in my realm, is I have to make sure I care about retention. I want to make sure I'm hiring. I want to make sure that I can deliver customer for my board and for my executive team and understand clear transparency when I'm building. My job isn't to hide anything. So I will show enough that it's kind of shove it down their throat a little bit that I want them to understand how everything works. And so
Yes. And Jason, as you were talking about the dashboard, and people, prepare for the Brady Bunch picture, okay? So start to prepare yourself to turn on your camera. Gave you a heads up. Jason, as you were talking about that dashboard with the outcomes, and you talked about the oil change and all the details and the stuff that might not be as interesting, as sexy to everybody. However, I'm just thinking, imagine if I could have a dashboard with the outcomes, and then I could just click on outcomes, and I could just go deeper, like do a double click, and it takes me into all the outputs and all the other stuff that had to be done to deliver that is connected somehow to the outcome, right? It's like, and there, like, it could be a lot of the other details that we have all of that, like how many, even getting down to story points that I mean, development teams did and stuff like that. But it has to start with outcomes. It has to start with outcomes. I am always stuck in outputs now, always. And
Yeah.
it is just, to me, it's just gotten so frustrating that I'm like, how can I elevate the visibility to the outcome? I mean, the OKRs that
I
have to.
This is me being brutally honest, right? That I think it really depends on also outcomes, depending on where you are in a leadership chain, also determines a little bit. And I'm not talking about self,
Also, as a senior manager, I'm not high enough as a VP, right? Jason, I'm sorry.
But I think your outcomes be different if you are a peer of ours that is going, a company that you're going through series, you're trying to get funded, right? So your outcome is going to be different of what you're looking for, and you don't want to drive that. You don't bring that down to your teams. They're like, hey, I'll let you know that if we don't get this delivered, we're not going to get paychecks next month. And these are friends of mine that had to a series of funding, because not everyone could be Patagonia of like, my job is to sell clothes that I make the world a better place. No, you're trying to make money. Let's be clear. You're trying to make money. But if you're depending on where you are, you're at a startup that wants to change the world and move things moving forward, the outcomes could be around growth. So outcomes are really driven around, hey, our end of the day, we are driving towards growth. I'll spend 15 to make 10. And that is what folks want to see. And we're making an impact to social aspects of life or customers or anything else. And that is the target. But that is completely different if a team is trying to get like their Series D, E, F funding that are just trying to chase EBITDA. So if you're trying to do that, I'm sorry, but if you don't, I always put it this way, don't sugarcoat Shanter saying, oh, we want to change the world, and hopefully we'll make money to pay you next month. That is
your money.
I've seen it happen with peers and friends of mine, and sometimes I feel like it's almost lends yourself to just, hey, be very forward with what your mindset is.
Transparent,
transparent to a degree. But I think that's really critical of outcomes are seen and depending on where you are, in a company and what stage you're in. Because I don't want to just sugarcoat that either of like, hey, PayPal has probably the smaller problems than the small, PayPal wannabe company with like 10 people of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Like that, like context is very important, right? Yeah, with that. Oh my goodness. An hour goes by really fast. It's 12:59. First of all, as you turn on your cameras, everybody, round of applause for Jason and Max for just hanging out and just having a guided discussion over scaling Agile and customer value delivery. Thank you for Tim and Sia and Peter for turning on their camera. David, good to see you too. Jefferson, Ben, Emily's about to turn it on. Jerry, oh yeah, continue. Come on, let's see how many people we can get. How many people we can get? Okay. No more. Turn on your camera if you can, folks. All right. And act as if you're having a good time, okay? Okay, wave, do whatever you want to do. In 3, 2, 1. Yes, I did it, but I looked up right while I was taking it, but it'll work. Okay, folks. Thank you for the picture. There it is. It's gonna be good. All right. All right. We're all there and we're looking good. Okay. Folks, thanks for joining. Thanks for being a part of this. Have a good Friday and stay agile, my friends, and we'll see you the next time.
Appreciate it. Hey, thanks, Max. Hook 'em.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
They're doing well. They're doing well this season, right, Jason? Now you can talk trash and feel optimistic against the OU, right? Like you think it's gonna happen? You think it's gonna happen?
I know it's 1 o'clock, about to be 1:01, and OU sucks. That's all
The funniest thing is when I had a bunch of friends that went to OU for college, and they took me there. Where is it? Norman, right? Norman, Oklahoma. Is that it? And everybody just started shouting, Texas sucks, UT sucks. I'm like, that was wrong. Like, we weren't even playing against them. And they just started all chanting it. I was like,
living
man.
living rent free, man. Living rent free.
Living rent free. There you go. Thank you, folks. Take care. David, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yep. See you soon.
Cheers.
Take care.
And that's a close, folks.